Kawaki rejects his true self. Now, he doesn't realize that he's doing this, but I'm going to use Himawari as the example. Kawaki's true self is Himawari's big brother. Not because of omnipotence, but because not only is he literally her adopted big brother and Boruto's adopted brother, he has been a true brother. He's saved her life on more than one occasion, saved her father's life, saved their brother's life, actually cares for Himawari. He is her brother for every reason in the world. But despite that, Kawaki consistently tells her, "Stop calling me your big brother. I'm not your big brother." He's rejecting that identity, regardless of why. It doesn't really matter. The point is, he's doing it. That's just one example.
I
I can do
would
this with a
agree
lot of things.
because I was going to bring up that same exact point, but from a completely different perspective. This is interesting. Whereas it's in disagreement, I try not to be defensive about it, even if we disagree, because I feel like at the end we might agree for now, anyways. So I don't imagine it like that. The way I see it is the difference is that Kawaki knows that Himawari loved Boruto as a brother before omnipotence. I don't think Kawaki knows whether or not Himawari thinks highly of Boruto after omnipotence. I don't think he knows that at all. And so that would almost lead to guilt in terms of his part, because he would imagine Himawari would look bad or down onto the actual Kawaki, which the actual Kawaki is right there. Omnipotence is just making it seem like he's Boruto the whole time. And so when Himawari says that he loves Kawaki, or whatever he says, Kawaki, my big brother, Himawari, from his perspective, wouldn't view the real Kawaki as a big brother. So what I see as Kawaki...
But even then, I'm sorry to interrupt you, the point remains the same. Regardless, Kawaki feels he is unworthy of being Himawari's big brother. That's what he doesn't think that Himawari would consider the real him his big brother. But what I'm saying is, regardless if he knows it, that's wrong. She would consider him his big brother. He is her big brother, regardless of why he's rejecting his true identity. That's what I'm saying.
Problem with
Which
that,
you do agree.
yes, but the problem with that is the knowledge aspect. It's not the fact that he knows it deep down and he's denying it. It's information he just straight up doesn't have. Like,
It doesn't matter. He's still rejecting it.
okay, well, for example,
I'm not saying it as a narrative mask inherently. I'm just saying he's rejecting his identity, regardless if he understands it or not.
I don't like that because I feel like rejecting is a wrong word to use there, even if it's technically correct, because he's not actively doing it. Or he's not consciously doing it.
Of course.
Well,
That's fine, though.
I feel like there's
Even
a better way to say it. I don't know.
Kabuto wasn't consciously rejecting or ignoring his identity. He didn't know. He didn't understand what he was doing. Obito is a little bit more like, you could argue he's choosing to do it. With Kabuto, no, it's entirely, he just didn't realize. He didn't realize he was doing all these things wrong. Kawaki's similar. He doesn't realize what he's doing. There's a lot of Kawaki Kabuto parallels in terms of like Orochimaru giving Kawaki an identity, or giving Kabuto an identity. Even though it's like sounds like the same one, Orochimaru gave Kabuto an identity, and Kabuto accepted it. And similarly, again, I don't want to talk about it too much until I've done the video, but Amado, more or less, in a way, gave Kawaki an identity, and Kawaki has accepted it without realizing what he's actually doing. The same with Ishiki, like Kawaki's been doing this all this time, and he doesn't realize it. Whereas with Madara and Obito kind of more so, you could argue he doesn't fully understand, but he also does kind of know, like, I am taking on Madara's identity, and I'm choosing to do it, and I am choosing to cast aside Obito. Like, he has a little bit more of a knowledge of what he's doing, whereas people like Kabuto has no clue what he's doing, but he's doing it regardless.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you're going to say this is disanalogous, but I'm going to call Cap in advance and say you're just wrong. So, this is similar to, like, Kakashi doesn't know Obito is alive after the boulder. I wouldn't say Kakashi is rejecting Obito's friendship.
He wouldn't be rejecting it regardless. He never rejected Obito's friendship. He's not avoiding his friendship. He's not denying the friendship. He's not going out of his way to not be friends, even if it's on accident. Like, he's just well, yeah, I wouldn't say he was rejecting Obito's friendship, regardless of analogous or not.
Well, he was active. Well, no, because like the point is that
Very,
he thinks he's
he,
dead,
if
and so
anything,
he's
he
treating him like
specifically
he's dead by like
accepted
going to his
Obito's
grave.
friendship. That's why he's going to the grave for 6 hours a day every day.
Exactly, he's actively going to the grave instead of being his friend. He is doing something still in regards to
No, he's
Obito.
going to the grave because he accepted his friendship.
Well, no, he's not friends with alive Obito. He's friends with dead Obito in that case. He doesn't know. Exactly.
Yeah, he doesn't know that Obito's alive, so he's not rejecting. But the thing is, he's not rejecting. The difference, though, is again, he's not rejecting alive Obito's friendship. He doesn't even know alive Obito exists. But in the case of the identity thing, Kawaki doesn't need to understand what like his true self is. The point is, he is rejecting his true self, regardless if he understands what he's doing.
I just don't think that's true. No.
Again, like I said, I haven't finished writing it out, but there's a lot of different aspects to this. Like, I 100%, like I said, when I get the video out in, 10 years from now, you can let me know if you still disagree.
So,
But I mean, there's a lot of different
I
perspectives
think
of which
the
you can
contention
take
here,
this.
I see his true self as being inert. It's to him, whereas you're seeing the true self as the world around him. So because Himawari views him as a
No,
brother. No?
no.
Okay, go ahead,
But
explain it. Before omnipotence, so like in the Code arc, for example, or Prophecy arc before omnipotence, would you say Kawaki's true self is what he believes it to be, the lonely outsider? Who's just like looking down at
no,
Konoha. Okay, or would you say his true self is as an Uzumaki family member and Himawari's brother?
even more than that. But yeah, I know Kawaki's true
Well,
self
yeah,
in the code arc, regardless of the specifics, he's already begun more or less rejecting his true self. And he's still doing it to this day. Omnipotence is just another thing layered on top of it. But you can remove omnipotence, and he's already been doing the rejection of his identity, the taking of another person's identity, or an identity that was given to him,
so I think
not one he forged. So, like, a story was written for him, and he went with it, rather than the story he was writing for himself. He just doesn't realize what he's done.
that depends on if you think Kawaki thinks he did omnipotence, regardless of whether or not Ada casted the jutsu.
No,
Does he blame himself? No?
that's not.
Regardless of things in universe, like Uzumaki family member or outsider to Konoha, blah blah blah, Kawaki's behavior in terms of his true character, who is he in terms of like nature rather than nurture? So for me, well, I guess this would be a little bit of nurture. I think Kawaki is similar to Obito, to where he just naturally, or you can say nurturally, whatever, from a young age, affinity wise, he is going to find an intense love to latch himself onto. So, for example, when he was a kid, he didn't hate his father when he was a kid. That's why he went to go out and do the wood chopping to go buy alcohol for him. Regardless if he looks down on him or not, he still loves his father. You can say he's scared of his father, or that he's abused by his father, and that's why. So it's a fake love. It doesn't matter because Kawaki thinks it's true. And
So
Kawaki's carrying that with him, it becomes a part of him. And that's what he's doing in Naruto. Regardless of if you think it's right or wrong, I don't think he fake
yeah,
loves Naruto. I think he just does.
it's not that. So the thing with like Naruto, Kawaki believes, and this is where Kawaki has a little bit of a misconception. Kawaki believes that Naruto gave him a reason to live. That isn't true. Kawaki chose his own story at one point. He doesn't realize it. Again, Kawaki, to some extent, believes he was just given a story when he was actually writing his own. And because he kind of just does that, he's used to it. He's done it again in various ways.
I disagree with the word usage because to say he chose it is. I'm not going to say that's wrong, but he was almost
The
forced
problem
into
is,
choosing it. Because
I'm gonna say, like I said, I'm trying to avoid it. He did choose the thing I'm thinking of because it is straight up in the manga. He did. It is in the
that's
like
fine.
in
That's
the.
fine.
I can pinpoint
I
when he did it.
I
I
could
know
just
what
be
chapter.
wrong. I
Like,
could just be wrong, so it's fine. But just let me cook for a minute. So his choice was just to
okay.
run away from Naruto and Konoha. That was just his natural choice from the beginning. He chose to do that. Naruto didn't let him do that. Naruto gave him options to choose from. And really, Kawaki's only option was to stay in the village until you could say the code arc to where he, again, chose to run away from the village based on the option that he himself now had because he basically gave it to himself. But he wasn't given the option, he just went along with the only choice he had. But even the thing with like Kurama talking to him when Naruto's asleep and then he cries and he builds the vase, all of that, he could have just not built the vase, that's fine. But like even Kurama talking to him and he cries, he's accepting it, he's going along with it, but it's not his choice per se. He's really being coerced into it.
Well, he wanted to be like Naruto. He asked Kurama, like, "Can you do it?" And Kurama basically says, like, "Yeah, I think you can, because you're not fully dried up yet." And
He's
symbolically, he's literally crying, so he can't be dry.
he's
You would
agreeing
have
to
water to cry
something
otherwise.
that he doesn't actually agree with. It's like he's because he's being convinced of it until he eventually is convinced of it. But in that case, I don't think it's Kawaki choosing it. I think it's him being convinced of it. So he's saying yes when really deep down he means no.
Kawaki didn't say yes to anything.
It's not actually about the words yes or no. It's about accepting it.
Well, Kawaki cannot believe in himself. Just to make a hypothetical, if Kawaki's true self could be like Naruto, or actually just straight up is like Naruto, but Kawaki doesn't believe he can do it. Or for example, Obito. Like Obito, if he just continued believing in himself, not giving up on himself, he could have just ended up like Naruto. But the difference is, like he stopped. He gave up on hope. He gave up on his idea. He gave up on everything when Rin died. But if he just didn't do that,
another
then he
that
probably would have been like
have. But okay.
yeah, but that's fine. But well, regardless if you agree, that's how the story portrays it. Like that's what Naruto's. That's what all the characters basically say. So that's what they're telling him anyway. But the point is, so if Kawaki just is like Naruto, but he just doesn't believe it, that would be yet again an example of Kawaki. I wouldn't say reject is the right word, but not believing in his true self in that case.
That's fine. I'm completely fine with that. Yeah, that sounds way better.
But yeah, whether or not Kawaki is like Naruto would be a separate topic. But assuming he is, you could say that.
So coming back to it though, with Kawaki and Himawari and Two Blue Vortex, the way I see it is really similar to Ada based on her love charm. The whole world loves her, but she knows that love isn't real based on her ability, so she rejects that love, even though love is the one thing she wants. So for Kawaki, he feels like it's not because of omnipotence, but the actions that he did that makes Naruto's family shouldn't love him anymore. And so again, because not the fact is omnipotence just swapped places. It didn't make people randomly hate Boruto because people were just hating Kawaki at that time. And so the things Kawaki did, regardless of the rest of the family, Kawaki himself doesn't think he deserves forgiveness from them. He's not asking for their forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't expect it. And he doesn't think that he has it now.
But regardless of forgiveness, for example, do you have a mother, I assume?
What?
Do you have a mother and a father?
Kamui.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna assume you do. Or how about this? We'll use we'll use the characters.
And you proclaim how smart you are, how many biology classes you took.
Well, you could have had your parents could be
I'm
dead.
not a
You know, trying to be
clone. No,
thoughtful.
I'm not Mitsuki. What you mean is
I was trying to be
now.
thoughtful and different.
Regardless, everyone has a mother and a father, regardless if it's now. That's how they were born.
Okay, are they? Okay.
But go ahead, please.
If you killed your dad, your mom will. You're still your mom's son. She's not gonna forgive the fact that you killed your dad, but you would still be her son. That will never change. My point is, regardless of what Kawaki's done, regardless if he gets or deserves forgiveness for what he's done, he still is a member of that family.
The
He accepted
problem,
that. The fact that he calls Boruto bro is proof of that.
that's not completely analogous because whereas family isn't biology, to a degree it is, and those are the undeniable facts. In your analogy, the son is undeniably the son of the mother, no matter what he does. In the case of Kawaki, he's an adopted son. They had to accept him in rather than it just being circumstance. That makes it different.
Yeah, but my point though is that they just use Boruto and Kawaki. They both consider each other brother. So Kawaki is Boruto's brother.
But
Like,
exactly, they're
I feel like I'm
only
both that.
brothers because they consider each other brothers. If both Boruto and Kawaki stopped considering each other brothers, they no longer would be brothers because it's not an undeniable rule.
But the point is, Himawari obviously unconditionally considers Kawaki her brother. And I think Kawaki considers Himawari his sister, but he doesn't consider himself as Himawari's brother. Would you agree with
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
So, and that's the point. Himawari, like, how can you, how can Himawari be his sister without Kawaki being her brother? That doesn't actually make sense, but that's basically how he looks at it. Because Kawaki would call Himawari's sister, not that he wouldn't character, but like he would view her that way. Himawari would do the reverse, call him brother. So he is her brother. Like,
Yeah.
that's who he is.
Something else I'll mention in regards to this entire conversation is the fact that I don't think Kawaki is trying to live Boruto's life even outside of that. Outside of Himawari, he's not trying to be Boruto.
You're correct.
Yeah.
He's not trying to be Boruto. I agree with that.
And so this is going to sound ridiculous, but at the end of the day, I know that Boruto and Kawaki live together. I'm sure Kawaki's going to the same house. He wouldn't randomly go to a different house now. At the end of the day, after Omnipotence, he's not going to Boruto's house. He's going to Kawaki's house. I think that sounds goofy, but that is a big distinction.
Yeah.
The distinction would be a lot more solidified if they just never lived together in the first place. They just lived in two different houses next to each other. But still.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The whole Kawaki trying to live Boruto's life or wanting to live Boruto's life thing is just fans being, I hate to say it, stupid. No,
Yeah.
That's not the point. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying either. Like, that is just, no, he's not trying to do that. He doesn't want to live Boruto's life. The point is he's just like in that life to some degree.
And I know you've said this before. I don't know if you actually agree with this, but I think Kawaki just has general empathy and care for even strangers. Like, for example, when he's saving Konoha citizens in Chapter 2, that's not out of omnipotence or desperation or fear that he's going to be caught. That's just him doing a nice thing.
No, he's just doing it.
Yeah.
Well, you could just say, no, he just genuinely wanted to save them because he's being a nice guy. Two could be, he's only doing it because of Naruto. Naruto would want it. And the three is that based off of a former scene. So this one you could argue he was just messing with the kid. When Kawaki was first in the village, remember when he like pulls out the ninja tech blade to like attack a little kid who bumped into him? You could argue, no, he really was just like scaring him to say, hey, be careful. You could argue he was going to kill him. It depends on how you want to interpret Kawaki. I do think he has empathy in general. Like, he was a very avant-garde used kid, so his first instinct was to attack the thing that touched him. I don't think he was doing it because, oh, I hate kids, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I do think Kawaki has empathy. But the question would be in terms of, well, to what extent does he care about that random leaf villager? I don't think he really cares about him.
but I think it would be perfectly reasonable for him to just protect him because he just has empathy. Like he
Yeah.
has it. I think you
So
see that, especially in the Boruto anime, when Kawaki just like saving people in like random ass arcs. Like, at least in the anime, like he straight up clearly has empathy.
I'll give you this distinction. I don't think Kawaki cares about the villagers from him himself. If he cares, he only cares because of Naruto. The difference is it's like
Like this, for example. Remember the whole walk up a bridge? No, remember the whole walk up a bridge example with Cam? I don't care about that person, but I'm not gonna let them. Right?
yeah.
I don't even know the person. How can I say I care about them? I can't. I don't. But I'm still gonna keep them from dying if I can.
Yeah. So it's like when I say I don't like something versus when I dislike something. Those are two different things. So when
Yeah.
Kawaki doesn't care, but Kawaki doesn't what's the
Basically
doesn't
like
not
for
care?
example, to say well like I guess I'm gonna use like numbers for this. Like a 50, right in the middle, so 0 to 100. So if you're at a 50, you're perfectly neutral.
Yeah, you don't care and you don't
If you
not care.
are at a 50, you could say you don't like something. That would be true. 50 or below would work. You could
Yeah.
say I don't dislike it. 50 or above works. 50
Exactly.
it applies to both. It's straight neutral. So Kawaki
Is at a 50.
probably is straight neutral with the average villager. He doesn't care either way. But because he's neutral, is on his whim, I guess you could say. Does the empathy take over? Does his distractions for things he care about take over? Just for example, a hypothetical, this is ridiculous. Imagine like a sleep Naruto just like teleports in front of like Jura. And Jura's going for the kill on Sawagi and Mark at the same time. Bro's to let Sawagi die. He's just gonna save Naruto. Like the thing he cares about is gonna completely he's not trying to save him. He's
Yeah.
gonna ignore Sawagi.
I will say
Naruto.
this doesn't apply to specifically Kawaki. This applies to literally anyone.